Hi there, and welcome once again to Mondays with Mike. I'm Mike, and it's Monday, and so I'm obligated to bring you this report. I'm actually joining you today from our atrium. I did this, I think, last week or a couple weeks ago because it's such a beautiful day. I mean, the sky is blue, and it's not too hot out here, it's not too humid, and so I'm kind of just taking a little break from being stuck in the building all day. So it was, to say the least, an interesting morning. So I know a lot of you are probably awakened, right, by lots of lightning and obviously thunder, waking you up. By the way, woken up, I used to say that all the time. You were woken up by this and that, and I just got corrected a couple times that it's awakened. And so I've said that ever since. I don't know. I just try to do the right thing. So this morning, we had a line of severe thunderstorms come through. We did have multiple reports of high winds, in particular, both in the Pearland and Friendswood area and at Hobby Airport. So basically, city of South Houston, maybe kind of getting close to just southern part of Third Ward area. 61 miles per hour. So that was enough to knock down or to knock out the power, I should say, to a lot of spots. I was talking to my friend and colleague, John Dawson, JD, said that he lost part of his fence, got knocked down. And that's a fence that did not get knocked down during Hurricane Beryl. Got knocked down in some of the early morning storms that we had about 3:30 in the morning. So, yeah, these storms definitely meant business. I think, by and large, though, what makes them stand out was the lightning. Was really incredible. I mean, just thousands and thousands of lightning strikes. So that's all moved out. So I just want you to know that the rest of the day should be fine. Very slight chance of a late day shower, especially near the coastline. But other than that, we're really sitting pretty for the day today. So I've got a few things that I'm going to share with you in a moment. One of them is some really cool videos, a slightly scary video that we had coming in from Central Texas. I have a couple of animal stories that I just had to show you. It actually came from Florida, and I'm a little bit partial to that, not only because I'm, kind of grew up in Florida, not kind of, I did grow up in Florida, but because they were particularly interesting stories to me, especially one of them. Then we've got some wintry weather and all of that good stuff. And then after all that, I did want to share with you a little bit about our extended forecast. Because we do have some trouble on the way for later on this week, most likely, and it is going to cause some problems. Even we had some representatives from the UFL here, UFL Roughnecks, right, the Houston Roughnecks. They're kicking off their season on Friday night, and so they were asking me, like, how's the weather looking? And I'm like, gonna be a little bit iffy. So I'm hoping to get our thunderstorms out of the way by game time there, which I think is at 7. It's going to be a close call. So we'll talk about that here coming up in just a little bit. But in the meantime, now that we've gotten the severe weather out of the way here locally, we're going to enjoy 3 beautiful days. If you don't mind it being a little bit on the hot side, even getting within a couple, maybe 2 or 3 degrees of record highs in some locations. All right, so now for the video portion. This is something new I'm trying, right? Because it's like, who wants to just look at me talking the whole time? So for the video portion of Mondays with Mike, we are going to start out with some severe weather in Texas. Take a listen to this. So those were definitely some scary moments. Not exactly the sound you want to hear if your car is parked outside. That would be bad. But this, of course, was from Kerrville, Texas, which, if you're not familiar, it's not too far away from Fredericksburg. It's out to the north and west of San Antonio, to the west of places like Round Rock and Austin. And there was one nearby area here that is Harper, Texas, not too far away from Kerrville. This is in Gillespie County. 2-inch diameter hail. So that's like considered egg-sized hail. As far as what was reported in Kerrville, 1.8-inch hail, which qualifies as a little bit larger than golf ball sized. And across the rest of the area, there were hail reports in Boerne, Texas, across the northern part of San Antonio, all across the Austin area. And then, of course, here in our neck of the woods, we didn't have any reports of hail, but we did have some high winds. So, yeah, quite a whopper of a line of severe thunderstorms that moved across the state of Texas. Now, the area you're looking at here is also under a pretty extreme drought. In fact, one of the worst droughts across the United States. And so, although they did get some areas of heavy rain and obviously the hail, they really could use a nice soaking rain. And we will talk about that coming up here in just a little bit, with some rain coming on the way by late this week. But for right now, yeah, there's a little bit of cleanup to be done across that area. So I came across this video and I absolutely wanted to share it on Mondays with Mike. This is a crocodile fighting an alligator in Florida. So this is from the Florida Files, definitely. Now, a lot of people don't realize that crocodiles do live in Florida. Obviously, there's a huge population of alligators in Florida, in Louisiana, here in Texas. Millions upon millions of alligators. And even there in Florida, South Florida, the alligators outnumber these crocodiles. It's got to be something like 1,000 to 1 as far as their population. This is from Everglades National Park, which is in South Florida. It extends from the southwestern part of the state all the way up until almost you're in, Fort Lauderdale. If you're in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and you just go westbound, really not that far, you run into the Everglades, and which is basically just a very, very big swamp. They call it the River of Grass. But anyway, it's home to a lot of different animals, including the American alligator, where the population is something like 1 million. It is a huge population of alligators, but a lot of people just have never heard of the fact that there is an American crocodile. And this crocodile species also lives, I think, in the Caribbean in a couple of spots, and a couple of spots in Mexico, but they do have a population in Florida. I've never seen one. Now, my dad used to take us out to the Everglades all the time. My brother and I, or sometimes it was just me and him, and we would rent a boat and kind of just go all over the national park out there. It's a wonder we never got stuck or eaten by anything. But I have never seen a crocodile, other than in a zoo.
Oh no, look at all
So
the blood.
to actually not only see a crocodile, but see him fighting with an alligator, I just thought was pretty amazing. I wanted to share it with you, even though it's not technically weather related.
Yes.
They were fighting over some sunshine, apparently. They both wanted to sun themselves in the same spot, and it didn't quite work out. Now, keeping it in sort of our nature-themed, animal-themed, section, I suppose, of Mondays with Mike, we're looking at a manatee from Florida. Now, manatees are gentle giants. They really are. Sometimes they're called sea cows. There's also a belief that maybe they were the inspiration for the myth of mermaids. But this one in particular was rescued from the northern part of the Florida Keys. It had been injured and obviously needed to be rescued. Some of the residents there recognized that it had been injured. Most of the time, these things will actually get injured from boats, from the propellers, from boats kind of cutting them up. But what happened was they're having fires out there, kind of like we had wildfires here. We had our big forest fire in San Jacinto County last week, and there was a big fire that was burning out there near Fredericksburg. Well, Florida's also had some big brush fires. And it was difficult for the rescuers to get here to the manatee to save the manatee. But now they do have the manatee. They've taken it to this dolphin recovery center, which they could also use to treat manatees. So the good news is he's been rescued and he's going to be okay. And now to the complete opposite, taking you up here to Duluth, Minnesota. They have to break out the snow plows. Yeah, some late season snow headed their way. Officially for the city of Duluth, they've had about 4 inches of snow this month, but sometimes, you get in some of the outskirts, and they get dumped on by snow. So some parts of the country, for example, here in Texas and in H-Town, we're looking for highs today in the middle 80s and maybe even upper 80s for tomorrow. Out in the southwestern United States, around Phoenix, they're looking for high temperatures getting close to 100 this week. Up here in Minnesota, they still have lows near 20 degrees, and they are not done with the snow yet. So on the heels of the snow story, some people have been asking, like, are we done with the cold weather? Yes. We can very, very safely say no more freezes. In fact, getting into the month of April, it is extremely rare. In fact, I don't think we've had a freeze in April, to be honest with you. I'd have to look back at the records again to refresh my memory, but getting into the upper 30s is really rare in April. And I think it's only happened just a handful of times that we've had a low of like 38, 39. So we're not worried about any more freezes. And in fact, if anything, we're trending toward warmer conditions. When we take a look at the outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, which is NOAA, the National Weather Service, Climate Prediction Center, their outlook for 6 to 10 days from now, they issue what they call a 6 to 10 day outlook, an 8 to 14 day outlook, and then they have an outlook that goes out monthly and then seasonally, which is like 3 months. 6 to 10 days out, they're showing really widespread above average temperatures, not just for us, but across most of the United States. So what that means is around here is that if average would be maybe 80 degrees, 78 to 80 degrees, we're looking at probably middle 80s, maybe even upper 80s. Heading into this weekend and early next week. And then the 8 to 14 day outlook, taking us into the month of April, probably we're still going to stay on the warm side. There's really no reason to think otherwise. So let's talk about rain. So we really do need some rain. Obviously, last week we talked all about, every day we were talking about the wildfire, right? There was a forest fire that took place up in San Jacinto County, which if you haven't been there, it's a very wooded area. It's the Sam Houston National Forest. So different than what you would see in like city of Houston or Harris County, or even if you live in Fort Bend or Brazoria or Galveston County, where you're not really wooded. Those locations, it's a forest. I mean, you're in the forest. There's big trees. In fact, it's a timber producing kind of area. Maybe not in the national forest, but that area has a history of producing timber, and it's still seen in a lot of the roads up there in Montgomery County. Like, for example, there's Sawdust, right? It's Sawdust Road, Rayford Sawdust. So, and the up in Lufkin, which is just up the road a little bit, Stephen F. Austin State University, they're the lumberjacks, right? So that part of Texas is the woods, it's the piney woods. So when that catches on fire, it is pretty scary because forest fires, first of all, burn very hot. Not that a grass fire is not hot, but there's a lot more fuel in a forest to burn. And once it gets going, it can burn at extremely high temperatures, which obviously makes it very dangerous for firefighters. It makes it dangerous for anybody whose home, is on the periphery of the forest fire. And the fire last week, which was called the Pauline Road Fire, did prompt evacuations, I think of 900 homes. The wind was blowing from north to south, and so it took the fire that was in San Jacinto County and was pushing it down south into Montgomery County, which is what prompted the evacuations. Now, fortunately, it never jumped. There was a creek there called Peach Creek. It never jumped Peach Creek and ended up threatening those homes. But the thing is, there was a lot of smoke that was sort of being blown across by the winds, and we interviewed some folks down there, or up there, And they were saying, you know what, we smelled the smoke and said, it's time to get out of Dodge. Why even take the chance? So that was our first sort of, problem with fires. We have had some grass fires, but I do believe that for the most part, those were prescribed burns. Now, a prescribed burn is a burn that's done, a fire that's set intentionally. That's not arson. It's a fire that's set intentionally usually for the reasons of preventing future fires. Obviously, you have to really know what you're doing, and you have to pick the right day to do it. We've recently had prescribed burns in Brazoria County, in Matagorda County, I think in Chambers County, which is mostly grassland and not forest land. I don't know what sort of investigation is still ongoing. This is going to become most likely an issue when they do the investigation into what caused the forest fire. But my understanding is that there was a prescribed burn that took place up there in San Jacinto County. From what we heard in the newsroom, it was on private property, but may have been approved by local authorities. Now, obviously, I am not an expert on fighting fires. It seems to make logical sense that you wouldn't start a prescribed burn on a day where you're under a red flag fire danger warning. Doesn't seem to make sense to me. I'm sure they had their reasons for doing it, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good idea. And so what resulted was 2,400 acres of land burned, of forest burned. Luckily, the fire department was able to get it under control, multiple fire departments. They were really helped by these incredible helicopters that come down, that go to the lake. Now, I don't even know what lake they went to. I don't know if they went to Livingston. They probably went to Lake Livingston, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they went there. Maybe Conroe. And they have a bucket, that they drop down into the lake and they fill it up and then they fly over it. And it's way more dangerous than you think, because imagine the weight of that helicopter is changing so fast when they open up the bottom of the bucket and drop all that water on the fire. So you need a really skilled pilot, which obviously they had. But that, I think, is what really was responsible for getting that fire under control. Because what happened with that one is that it was in a remote area along Pauline Road, which is why it's called the Pauline Road Fire. But it's hard to get to. It's not like a neighborhood, like a house, somebody's house catches on fire and the fire truck pulls up and there's a fire hydrant there, right? And you just attach the hose to the fire hydrant and you start spraying and putting out the house fire. This is, you're in the woods. So the aerial attack really was what helped to get that under control. The thing is, we don't want that to happen again. Now, we did have heavy rain this morning. That's good. We have more heavy rain heading our way later this week. That's good and bad. The good part about it is that many of our locations, especially out to the west of Houston, west of Katy, the Sealy area, the Columbus area, Brenham, down to the southwest around places like Wharton. And then as you go farther west, like Hallettsville and heading out, well, if you go all the way out to San Antonio, that's one of the worst droughts that's happening in the entire United States right now. So they could definitely use the rain, no doubt about that. Unfortunately, the way things work around here, and you know this, it's always feast or famine. It's either we have no rain or you get like a foot of rain. Very rarely is it anywhere in between. Luckily early this morning we did only get 1 to 2 inches of rain, but it was mostly because the system was moving so fast. But the rain that's coming our way Thursday and Friday may prompt some advisories. Now, it's too far out right now to give you, because if you're watching this, it's March 24th. We're talking about 27th, 28th. It's too far out to give you specifics, like where is it going to rain the heaviest. exactly what's the timing. Is it going to start Thursday afternoon or maybe Thursday evening? A little too early to say that. I will say that in general, we're looking for rain to probably begin on Thursday and get a bit heavier, kind of coming through in a couple of waves on Thursday, with some heavy stuff on the way Friday. And by heavy, I mean potentially like 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. There's an area of low pressure that's coming in from the west. It looks like it's going to be moving kind of slowly over our area. So that could create conditions that would give us some strong thunderstorms, maybe some slow moving thunderstorms, which is always a concern. So if you have plans for Thursday, and I would say especially Friday, just keep that in mind that it could be a storm alert day. Remember, at Fox 26, we have our Fox 26 Storm Alert Day, and that's to try to give you a heads up about impactful weather before we're under any sort of watches or warnings or anything like that. So we haven't declared it a Storm Alert Day yet. I have a feeling that I'll be confident enough tomorrow morning to probably go ahead and label Friday as a Fox 26 Storm Alert Day. So just keep that in mind. Once that system passes, and hopefully we don't have any serious flooding, the weekend looks pretty decent. We'll have some scattered showers, and we're most likely going to have high temperatures in the middle 80s. We're going to see 90s around the corner, at least middle to upper 80s for a long time, with some increasing humidity. So get ready for that. Get ready for that. So once again, just to reiterate, short term, today, tomorrow, Wednesday are looking pretty quiet. Don't be surprised to see some fog Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, maybe even Thursday morning. The ground is still wet. We'll have relatively light winds. So don't be surprised waking up tomorrow morning if we do have, maybe a fog advisory in effect for some locations. But the highlights of the week are going to be the heat and then the heavy storms that'll be coming in. I want to invite you to join us every day, Monday through Friday. We have a show that comes on Fox Local called Forecasting with Friends. It comes on every day at 11 a.m. It's 30 minutes, 11 to 11:30. It's going to be either me and JD or me and Allison, or sometimes if we're running, short-staffed, maybe it's just me or just Allison or something like that. But it's fun. I think it's a good show. It's not just straight-up weather. We do a lot of, what we call weather-adjacent material, kind of like I showed you today, like crocodile and an alligator fighting. Is it weather? No, maybe not, but it's nature, and it's environmental, and it's somewhat scientific, and they were fighting over sunshine, so I think that qualifies enough as weather. So anyway, join us on Fox Local. You don't have to watch every day. I mean, throw me a bone, watch every once in a while. Forecasting with Friends at 11. And I want to give a shout out to my mom and Neil back in Florida. Watch out for those crocodiles and alligators. If they're fighting, just leave them alone. Call the authorities, don't get involved. All right. So that'll do it for this edition of Mondays with Mike. I hope you have a wonderful day. Get out there and enjoy some of the sunshine today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And just be prepared for whatever is coming our way here, coming up on Thursday and Friday. Have a great one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.